All right, Johnston RV Center is right there off I-65. Two great locations. You can find them on I-65, exit 334 there in Decatur, 304 in Coleman, and always online, johnstonrvcenter.com. Home to Cherokee, America's #1 selling camper brand. Financing available there, johnstonrvcenter.com. We find Justin Hokanson on the johnstonrvcenter.com hotline. What is up, Hoke? How are you? Hoke, you're muted.
Yep.
We're 2 for 2 on the Zoom interview. Yeah, we're 2 for 2 today on the Zoom interviews. You doing all right, Hoke?
I'm good, man.
Good. Let's start. Justin, Auburn Live, part of On3 Sports. You can follow him on Twitter @_J Hokanson. Let's start, though, quickly with the basketball side of things before we talk spring. Yep. Jim just talked about a new face there, and some people were asking earlier if it's indicative that Walker Kessler's moving on. Kessler's a 5, this would be a 4. You know, I don't think you can read anything into that, but it's a big get for Auburn.
Yeah, it's a huge get for Auburn. I mean, really, it's just kind of being in the right place at the right time with you know, the things that happened at LSU. I mean, they've lost now like 10 guys off that roster with transfer portals, and of course, Yohan was a commitment. So Auburn was in the right place at the right time to get him. Great prospect. Is what I've been told from the Auburn coaches. They really, really like his upside. It kind of makes me think about the way Chuma was. Chuma was a really good player his freshman year, but the projection for Chuma was always year 2, it was going to kind of take off. I feel like that's sort of what they think about Yohan. In terms of how it impacts Kessler, I don't think it means anything. I think Walker Kessler's weighing his decisions, and I think there's a chance he comes back. And so I don't think that getting Traore means Kessler is or isn't coming back at all. You know, if he does come back, you have a front line of Walker Kessler, Dylan Cardwell, Jalen Williams, and Yohan Traore. If he doesn't, you still have Jalen, Dylan Cardwell, and Traore, and maybe they go after another 6'10" guy, or maybe they just go get the best body. But big pickup for sure. I mean, 5-star prospect, one of the best prospects that they've ever signed.
Listen, we had Charles Barkley on yesterday, and he talked about where the Auburn expectations are now, that you could be disappointed with winning an NCAA tournament game and an SEC regular season championship. But there was some disappointment that this team didn't go deeper into the tournament or maybe even play this weekend in New Orleans. You're around the coaches, the staff, the players. How long do you think it'll take them to get over this? And do you think how different this roster will look next year? I mean, in basketball, it seems like we almost have to reinvent the roster every year.
Yeah, it's a good question. I watched the Barkley the segment, and he's right. And I think it's an important point for Auburn fans to remember, that is, it can be both. You can be disappointed, and he's right about the expectations. I mean, how cool is it for Auburn basketball to be to the point where losing in the second round is you just feel like what a letdown. But I think with this team, the reality of this team is there were some real flaws with this team, and a lot of them were covered up by Walker and Jabari. And then teams weren't really sure how to deal with them, whether it's Wendell in the pick and roll, and KD was just kind of a menace. You didn't know what you're going to get with KD Johnson. And so I think there for a while, teams didn't quite know how to deal with them. I think once teams sort of figured out how to maybe trap Wendell, trap the guards, make things difficult to even get the offense going, it changed things. And so I think Auburn overachieved winning the SEC. I mean, I think they overachieved winning the regular season championship. I think that team should have probably gotten to the Sweet 16, but past that, I don't know. I mean, I think I think what they did in the regular season for an 18-game schedule, I think they overachieved, and what Bruce Pearl was able to get those guys to do and buy in and compete was really impressive. In terms of the roster, it'll look different. It just depends. I mean, you're right with the transfer portal. I don't think Bruce Pearl's the guy that's going to run people off. That's not really his style. But yeah, he'll recruit over your head. And so I think that's where Auburn's at. I think can they go after, who's out there and who can they get, whether it's Eric Stevenson from South Carolina or, Brandon Murray from LSU. If they can go get some guys that fill some needs, then they'll just figure out the roster on the back end. But, it could change. I mean, there's a few guys there that I could see going somewhere else and playing it's really a lot of moving parts right now, even with Walker Kessler. So it's going to look different, not dramatically. You still got Wendell and KD and Jalen Williams and Dylan Cardwell. There's still some core guys there, but there definitely could be some pieces still moving, 3 or 4 different pieces moving in the next couple months.
Justin Hokanson with us, Auburn Live on 3 Sports at _J Hokanson on Twitter. He's on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Let's talk football now. And reading some of the talk coming out of Auburn spring is we might see a little more NFL style in the passing game to the running back for Tank Bigsby. Why was maybe that not the case last year, and why might it be the case more this year?
That's a good question. I thought before last year, I remember writing that I thought he'd have 25 catches last year. I mean, that's just what we heard. And you thought about what kind of the talent they had and how to use Tank. And I'm like, I think they could really get him the ball in the backfield. And then it didn't happen at all. And so we'll see if it happens again. It could have been one of those discussions they had with Tank about coming back. Like, look, we're going to get you involved in all these different ways. And I think the lack of overall talent at receiver probably plays a part. You know, they've got to develop some guys there to be reliable. And so when you look at that offense, it's offensive line, tight ends, and Tank. That's the strength. And so running the ball, throwing it to Tank out of the backfield, I mean, those are the things that are your strengths until you can figure out who are my reliable guys at receiver, and do I have a quarterback reliable enough to throw the ball 30 times and complete 60%? I don't know. So I think for now, getting the ball, I mean, Tank's a phenomenal player. You got to get him the ball more than just running the football. You got to swing it to him the same way you would throw a bubble screen. And so I think they watch a lot of NFL film in the offseason trying to figure out ways to do that. And I'm sure that's something that they told Tank they want him to do to try to get him ready for the NFL.
There's not it seems like anyway, not a day that I don't go to your site or see a release from Auburn that the name Caleb Wooden is not being mentioned. Tell me about this guy, and why is he the talk of this spring football camp at Auburn?
Yeah, he's definitely gotten some praise. He's the younger brother of Colby Wooden, who's the defensive tackle for Auburn. Really what it comes down to, he's a kid that I think is showing really good football intelligence, really smart kid, maybe a little bit mature beyond his years. And more than anything, he's just around the football early on in spring camp. I mean, he's had multiple interceptions, forced fumbles. He's one of those guys that, is he young and making mistakes? Yes. But when you're a coach and you look out there and every time you look up, Caleb Wooden is around the football in especially creating a turnover, it makes an impact. And that's why you hear his name out of Brian Harson's mouth, and you hear his name out of Zach Etheridge's mouth and Jeff Schmedding. Is he's just around the football. Got a ton of stuff to learn. I would caution people. He's not, he'll play this year, but he's got a lot to learn. But it's a really good sign when you have a freshman that comes in. JD Rim, same with him from Valdosta. Both those guys have come in, and are they making mistakes? Yes. But anytime you have a freshman that comes in and they're sticking their nose in, and they're physical and they're around the football and they're creating turnovers, that's a really good sign for a young guy coming in. So that's why you've heard Caleb Wooden and JD Rim, both those guys' names in the secondary.
Justin Hokanson with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. The D Davis move to the portal, other than telling you that he didn't think he was going to play, did it tell you anything else about the quarterback depth chart in your mind?
No, I don't know. I mean, I think it's more about D and just not getting over the hump, and in terms of what they wanted to see from him. And I'm sure after that first week, they said, here, we were out there and we get to watch a little bit. And, the repetitions very much looked like Finley and Ashford had kind of moved into that second spot. And I'm sure they had told him, hey, based on this week, because they talked about it, hey, look, we're going to evaluate everything. And as we go, the reps will change. And so I'm sure that first week went by and they said, all right, going into week 2, Robbie, you're going to get 2 reps. D, you'll move to 3. And he's probably like, all right, I'm out. Yeah. Because at that point he had so many opportunities to get over the hump. And if he moves down there, then it's just, Zach Calzada's not even going through everything right now. So the chances of D competing against TJ Finley, Zach Calzada, and Robbie Ashford just wouldn't happen. And he's a really good quarterback. I mean, he's kind of reminds me of Malik Willis in some ways. He can go somewhere and be a really good player. It's just not a good fit for what Brian Harsin wants in that offense, what he expects from a quarterback. It's just all those little things matter. And so, it's not a good fit, but D will be a good quarterback somewhere.
Yeah, when your head coach played the position, that makes it a little bit tougher. If you had to bet that cool lid you had on, I don't even know what color that is, but if you had to bet that cool lid that you have on Zach Calzada or TJ Finley, is Zach still going to get a fair shot at and a real shot at winning the job in the fall camp because of the setback here in the spring? Or do you feel like TJ Finley is sort of grasping this job and Zach's going to have to start off maybe, as QB2 and fighting for the gig?
No, I think there's a long way to go. I really do. I mean, the fact that Zach he's going through drills, but he's not doing any kind of scrimmaging. And just when you listen to Brian Harsin talk about what they're going to evaluate, I mean, he literally said their life is a documentary. Everything, on the field, off the field, film room, everything is on the table when it comes to figuring out who the starting quarterback should be. So to me, that tells me that it's going to be somewhat of a journey. I mean, it's not just going to be who goes out there and plays best in the scrimmage and you're the guy. I think there's a ton of factors they're going to take into account. And I think Zach Calzada being a little bit limited right now, I don't think that puts him out of the race. To me, I think that just sort of delays the real battle a little bit. I think the summer is where it could really pick up in workouts and who's in the film room and where does that chemistry come with teammates. And I think that's where you're going to see it build. And then you get into fall camp, and I think it could be a real battle. I really don't expect there to be a quarterback named until you're into fall camp, when you have a healthy Zach Calzada, healthy TJ Finley, and Robbie Ashford's got his feet under him. What does it look like in that first maybe week or two of fall camp? I really think you're just getting started with this quarterback battle. I don't know that I could pick one. Finley's got a leg up, but I don't think he's the best quarterback. I don't think he's the best passer, but he's got the experience. So how do you sort of factor that in? That's why it's just really too early to tell.
It sounds like it's one of those proverbial, the team will almost let you know who QB1 will be with the offseason workouts and such. Does Holden Gerner, you mentioned Robbie, does Gerner also factor into this? Because I was impressed with what I've seen from the kid so far in just the videotape I've seen, but even body language when they were introduced at the Auburn-Oklahoma basketball game I was there, Gerner had that, hey, this is my team type mentality when he walked out on the court.
Yeah, he does. I've noticed that as well in some of the stuff that we've gotten to watch. He's definitely a mature kid. I don't know if he's going to factor in just because he's not talented. You don't want to throw a true freshman out there, but there's just having TJ Finley, who you brought in, who's played football, Zach Calzada, who's played SEC football, and even somebody like Robbie Ashford, who's so far, he's a really good athlete. I don't know what he's going to be as a quarterback. Probably got a ways to go, but he's a good looking athlete, throws a good ball. I'm not sure where Gerner can get in the mix and beat out those three guys to play. And even if let's just say Holden Gerner was playing pretty well and you thought, man, if it's even, why would you want to burn it? So I don't know. He'd have to be, to me, a lot better than everybody else. And I don't know that I've seen that. I think the ideal scenario would be to redshirt him, figure out the quarterback between the other three, and then let Gerner really be in the mix next year. That's sort of the way I see it playing out.
Well, there's nothing the media loves like a good quarterback battle in spring.
It helps
like
when
meat.
It helps when you have a buffet of quarterbacks to choose from.
That's true. Yeah, well, a lot of choices here. All right, hey, so go subscribe to On3 and Auburn Live, and you get all the Hoke's work there. You can follow them on Twitter at Auburn Live on 3. Follow Hoke on Twitter at _J Hokanson, part of On3 Sports. Hoke, thank you for the time, man. Have a great weekend.
You got it. You guys too, man. Thanks.
All right, buddy. Take care. Justin Hokanson with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.